Hey everybody, DM Jim here, and welcome to another episode of Game Terrain Engineering. I am back from Gen Con that was last week in Indianapolis, and I have managed to catch up on some work, catch up on some sleep, and just sort of give some thought as to some of the things I saw and did there that I think may be of interest to you. This is going to be another catch-all video, and I do apologize for that. I am working on a big project. It's a fantasy project, and it should be ready next week. It's just not ready for me to show it to you yet, and I hate to tease you about it, but I was hoping I would be able to get it done by tomorrow, Friday, and that's not going to happen. So I was going to do this video next week, so I'm just swapping them. And basically what I want to do is I want to show you some of the things I picked up at Gen Con that may be of interest to you. These are in no particular order. I've sort of written down a list here of the things I want to share with you. So first thing I'm going to do is, everything's scattered here on my desk. I'm going to start out with these Elder dice. I got to play some role-playing games at Gen Con, and I got a lot of compliments on these dice. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, I don't collect dice. I know a lot of DMs will come with, 20, more than that, 40, 50 dice, different colors, things like that. Dice to me are dice. They serve a function, and I don't collect them. That said, every now and then you just see a set of dice that just, either the color or the theme or whatever just grabs you. Now, these were kickstarted, and they are currently doing late pledges for the Kickstarter. So if you like these, just I'll try to remember to put a link in the description below so you can go find them. But they're called Elder dice, and they come in this little, it looks like a book, okay? This is the red one, here's a green one. I liked the red one. Now the box, you can buy these dice individually in whatever quantities you like. They come in all the standards, D100, D6, D8, that kind of stuff. But the book comes with 9. It comes with D20, D100, D8, D6, D4, D12, and then 3 D6s. But I went ahead and bought some extras, like an extra D20 and some D6s and D4s, because I was so taken with how these looked. And I got some compliments on them, and I'll put a close-up photo of them at the end of this video. But it's hard to tell. They're sort of a red-orange. In real life, to me, they're just an incredible color. I don't think the video will do them justice because you're not getting the shininess of the light on them. I had to have a set. So I bought a set, and the owner, Heath, and I talked, and he was so taken with my love of them, and I was sharing with people at Gen Con, go by the Elder Dice booth and grab you a set. He gave me an extra set of green. So Heath, if you're watching this, thank you. I haven't opened the green ones yet. Here they are. They're green. They're that green with yellow and a gold numbering. Very high quality. No imperfections on these dice at all. But the highest value on each dice is a symbol. In this case, it's the Elder sign here. For my red dice, it's, the Cthulhu head there. So again, I just fell in love with these, had to have them, and was just taken with the book. I also want to show you this. David LaRocca, I hope I'm pronouncing his name right. I apologize if I'm not. He has done a bit of artwork on the inside of each box. It's all each color has a different unique. I got him to sign it. He was there as an artist, so I got him to sign the inside of my book cover here. But he also, there's some great artwork inside. Look at that one. Now I don't know what the there are 3 and 3, 6. There are 6 colors in all, or 6 themes. I'm not sure how they're distinguishing them. And I have the 2, so there's 4 other ones for you to look at. Again, I'll put a description below if you're interested. These I'm really excited about. I am returning to the DM's table next month, and after a kind of not a lengthy hiatus, but I took a break because I was burning out. I was creating custom terrain and hand painting minis for just about every week's adventure, and it was just too much. And so I took a step back, and I think I mentioned this in another video. I've kind of decided that I'm going to every week I'm going to try something a little different from 3 different patterns. One, I'm going to use theater of the mind. One, I'm going to use terrain and miniatures, like what my players have come to sort of expect from me. And then the third one is I'm going to more rely on two-dimensional mats or two-dimensional printed terrain, kind of like the, I'm going to tip this over, I know it's going to happen. In a previous video, that one right there, I reviewed this big book of battle mats. And this is the kind of thing I want to start using more of, because I think it will help help with my time issues. But when I was at Gen Con, some of you may have seen these already, because they're not, I don't think they're brand new. They did kickstart them a while back. But there's a company called Roll for Initiative, numeral 4, Roll for Initiative. They make a lot of game supplements to assist players and DMs. But the one I really want to show you is this one. I saw these and I checked them out. I even tried them out myself and I was sold. They're called Dry Erase Dungeon Tiles, okay? They come in different colors. This is the dark gray dungeon. They have a natural like sand or stone color. This is the gridded one, although the grid is very subtle, but it's there if you look for it. They also have hex pattern ones, but what these are is they're dry erase pads like this. And if you look, you'll see these tabs, right? So they just snap together, or you know, you put them on your table and you just do it like that, and they stick, right? And they're laminated, so you can write on them. And the one I bought comes with 5 of these 10 by 10s, and it comes with 16, if I can find them, 16 of the 5 by 5s. That size right there. So you can see the size comparison. So you can do hallways, big urban expanses. You know, with the new adventure for coming out in late August or September from Wizards, it's an urban adventure in Waterdeep, and these are going to be perfect for city settings. And again, they look great, and you can write on them. So if you don't want to put physical terrain, you could just draw things like doors and buildings and stuff, or walls. But this will help me a lot because I can drop terrain on these, but I don't have to create an actual you know, bunch of tiles or gridded bases or what have you. Again, everything I mentioned in this video, by the way, I will put, I'll try to put a link in the description below. So if you're interested in these, you can check them out. Let's see, where are my pins? I had a set of pins I was just going to show you. Oh, here they are. So, and one thing I was really impressed with, although I'm not, well, I might do it. They were writing on them with Sharpies. Now, those of you who know Sharpies, those things are permanent. They usually do not do well. But you can see they hold, you know, they take the ink or the dry erase really well. And let's, oh yeah, perfect. Okay. Now, I was talking with one of the guys there, and what he did was he drew on it, and we talked for like, I don't know, 5 minutes or so. He just sort of set it aside. And then 5 or 10 minutes later, he came back, wiped it, it came right off. No spray, nothing like that. Now, I'm gonna do this. I probably want, these are double-sided, okay? He took a Sharpie, and he wrote on it. See that? I may regret this. And yep, you gotta put a little elbow grease into it. Oh, not a lot of elbow grease, it's coming off. I'll be darned. Look at that. Can you see it? It's coming off. I left a little bit up there. Okay, no regrets. That alone is nice. There you go. I have made the mistake. I carry Sharpies and dry erase in my game bag. I have made the mistake of using Sharpies on laminated stuff before. It's kind of nice to know that if I do that on these, it won't be long term. And I do have Sharpies in multiple colors, much more than the typical dry erase or you know, these. So I don't know. Maybe I'll change over to Sharpies. All right, so that's the Roll for Initiative dry erase dungeon tiles. Link below. What next? Oh, Dwarven Forge. So I'm going to include a couple pictures while I'm talking here of Dwarven Forge. If you don't know what Dwarven Forge is, they are 3-dimensional terrain that are made from this material called Dwarvenite. And they're world famous. They do a lot of Kickstarters, and they make these amazingly large scenes, dungeons, castles, things like that. And for the past few years, I don't know how long they've been going to Gen Con, but I know I've seen them there the last 2 or 3 years. They were there this year, and they had their full range of Dwarvenite out. Now, Dwarvenite, to me, my opinion, it's incredible stuff, but it's pricey. And, you know, I know a lot of people love what they do, but they just, if you don't get into a Kickstarter, with the Kickstarters, when they do them, they tend to have a lot of stretch rewards. So the more money they make on the Kickstarter, they just start tossing in bonuses and extra pieces. So if you get in on a Kickstarter, a lot of times you can spend $100 or $200, but you'll end up with $300-400 worth of Dwarven Forge terrain, okay? But if you miss the Kickstarter, you're out of luck. You just have to buy it as you can. Now, I think sometimes they'll do specials and things like that, but for me, I just have not really invested. I invested in Dwarvenite years ago. I bought just a basic dungeon setting, and I like the tiles. But this was before I really found out the power of my 3D printer, and with companies like Fat Dragon Games and OpenForge and those kind of you know, three-dimensional tile organizations that sell STL files or give them away. You don't, you know, if you have a 3D printer, you kind of don't need Dwarven Forge, and that's not to knock Dwarven Forge. I think their product is outstanding. It's very durable. It holds paint well. I don't even think you need to prime it, unlike 3D printed PLA tiles. But they were there. I was very impressed with what I saw, and again, I've posted some pictures here, and I'll put some at the end of the video. But I didn't buy any. Somebody asked me if I had grabbed any Dwarven Forge, so I know I did not. But again, very impressive with what they have. But at the Dwarven Forge booth, there was another company, if I can find them, here they are. There was a company called Top Dog Games. I think the owner of the company is a friend of the Dwarven Forge creator. And they were selling an interesting item that I grabbed. And they had more than one. They had monster hangers, PC hangers, non-NPC hangers. I grabbed the PC hangers. It's this stack. They're still shrink wrapped, but they're all just a stack of this, as you can see. They're designed, this piece right here folds so that you can, the character name goes on here, and you put it on your Dungeon Master screen, and you can move these to indicate, you know, initiative order to the players. And on the Dungeon Master side, what you're seeing is you give this to the player before the game, and they can fill in their race, class, alignment, AC, hit points, their stats, their skills, passive perception, all those modifiers. And you have it right there in front of you, hanging on your DM's screen, so that you don't have to constantly ask players, what's your strength modifier, or what's your passive perception, things like that. I don't use a Dungeon Master screen. I sort of gave that up a while back. Maybe one day I'll go back to it, but I really don't like using a Dungeon Master screen. I like rolling dice in the open now, and I don't know if my players like it or not, but I roll, and what you get is what you get, and I expect the same from my players. Now, how I plan on using these, however, is I will still give them to my players and ask them to fill it out. But again, it can just be something that I put in front of me on the table, or I can put them in. I don't have it with me, but I have a black notebook that I use as my DM book. And, you know, I put everything in that related to the night's adventure, and I put photocopies of monster stats and stuff like that. These could easily be put in there. And I apologize for the noise in the background. I have an 11-year-old who loves Fortnite. Anyway, these are really cool. Like I said, they had other kinds. They had monster stat cards for all the 5e monsters. They work kind of the same way. They have the stats for the DM to hang up on the screen. They also had, I think, NPCs. Character tracker, blank monster forms. They had blank ones for monsters you want to do. So anyway, check them out. I'll put the link below. Let's see, what else? Oh, Eye of the Beholder. I'm going to put a link below to a documentary that is coming out, I think, towards the end of the year. I backed it on Kickstarter. It's a friend of mine named Brian Stillman. And Brian and two of his business partners, they made a documentary that they presented at Gen Con this year called Eye of the Beholder, The Art of D&D. I think that's the title. And basically they conducted 68 hours of interviews with artists back from the D&D, advanced D&D books, like the original Monster Manual, the Player's Handbook, DM's Guide, and they interviewed them and talked to and they interviewed all the way up to artists that are currently working on the 5th edition. Okay, 68 plus hours I think it was, and down to a 1.5 hour video. They took the best, bits of the interviews and put it together, and it's basically just a video that talks about how the art evolved. It's funny. There are some heartbreaking, sad moments, and there's just so much good in that documentary. For those of us who grew up with D&D, love D&D, we remember the early art, we love the new art, and it's almost a history lesson. And again, it's a documentary. It should be out soon. It won the Gen Con Best Documentary for 2018. So anyway, congratulations to Brian and crew for just an outstanding video. I'll try to remember in a future episode to let you know when I know that the documentary is available. But if you're in any way a fan of D&D and the artwork, and you want to know a little bit about the history of how it's progressed, you're going to want to watch out for this. It's called The Eye of the Beholder, The Art of D&D. What else we got? Okay, here's a new one for you. This little thing is called Rolled and Told. Now this is mostly for DMs here, not players, although if you're a player, you'll probably want to check it out. It is a comic book, okay? It's a comic book, but it's going to be a monthly. It starts in September, and what it is, here's the comic book art you can see. What it is each issue is going to come with an adventure inside. It'll come with a map. Okay, I don't want to hold that up too close because one of your DMs may decide they want to run it. Comes with the map, comes with the intro comic story. It comes with the setup for the DM to read how, what the background is for the adventure. And then it comes with, pages and pages of each room and the monsters and the traps and all that good stuff, and lots of artwork tossed in. Now, what's interesting about this is in each issue, not episode, they're going to have an essay written by somebody about a memorable monster. And the first issue is called The Mimic, okay? It's an essay, let's see, this is 4 pages. And then at the end of the book, they're going to provide character stats in case your players need a character to play. And then what else do they have? I remember reading, they're going to have some other surprises, but it's called Rolled and Told. They were giving out issue 0. This is just a promo copy. I did see this at a comic book shop here in Atlanta. So I know comic book shops, or at least some of them, may be getting this promo issue. So if you want it, go call up your comic book shop and see if they have it, and tell them to pull it if you want to get it. But it starts in September. The first adventure I read, it's kind of a humorous, comedic adventure. Not my thing, but it does give you an idea of the level of writing and the quality of the adventure, and that is impressive. The editing is done well, the writing is done well. I just didn't care for the first adventure, but that's just me. Further adventures, there will be serious ones and other things like that. So I'm looking forward to seeing how it goes. I'll probably give the first 6 episodes or issues a look and decide if I want to continue it. But there you go, Rolled and Told. Let's see, what else? Oh, this is for you Legion players. I'm not sure if this has reached the stores yet, but I managed there to pick up my Han Solo. Okay, here he is. It's not glued up yet. I also, while I was there, picked up the Rebel Commandos. The shine is, I didn't take the plastic off, sorry about that. So I got some painting to do this weekend. They also had Chewbacca, who is going to be an operative character. I may not be understanding this correctly, but as I understand it, the operative characters are going to be solo characters like Boba Fett, and they can be joined to an existing group, like a group of soldiers or stormtroopers, and either they stay with that group or they provide benefits to that group if they're like together, but then they can also go solo and do their own thing. But again, I don't know. But they did have Chewbacca. He looked good. His miniature looked good. And they also had what they call the Wookiee Warriors, which is a 4 Wookiee crew, similar to the Rebel Commandos. This one comes with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This one comes with 7 miniatures. The Wookiee Warriors, I believe, is a 4 crew group. And as I understand it, they are going to be really, really super powerful if they get into melee combat, like up close and personal. Like they use each one, for each Wookiee is 2 black dice, which the black dice, if you know Legion, are the most powerful dice. The most likely to roll crits and hits. So when you have 4 Wookiees running at a group of stormtroopers, the stormtroopers are in trouble because you're going to be rolling 8 black dice. Things are going to be interesting. So anyway, I just wanted to share that with you. They should be available at your local gaming store. If they were on sale at Gen Con, they've got to be on the truck heading to your local gaming store. All right, what else? Let's see. As a DM, I'm always looking for new resources for my game. Most of my players, I try my best to hide a creature. I don't just say, hey, you're being attacked by 6 undead or 6 zombies or whatever the word is. I try to be sneaky about it, but inevitably they figure out quickly what the creature is just from your description. Because D&D, official, Wizards of the Coast and Advanced D&D, all these monsters are well known, okay? So this is not a new book, but I finally broke down and picked up a copy because I am impressed with it. This is Kobold Press's Tome of Beasts, okay? Some of you may have already got a copy, and if you have, maybe you're impressed with it. I've read through about 1/3 of it so far, and I got to tell you, it's nice. I love the artwork. I love the layout, is just really, really well done. As you can see, it's a very thick book, much thicker than the monster manual for 5e. I forget how many monsters come in this thing. Sorry, I should have counted them. I'll try to find out or do a count in the contents and post the details below in the description. But quite impressed with it. And my players, if you're watching, don't go out and buy a copy of this, okay? No, don't do that. But I have some surprises for you. The other book I picked up was from a publisher called Jetpack 7. This one's called Master and Minions right here. As you can see, it's very well done. The artwork is great. It's high quality hardback, just like you'd come to expect from the Wizards of the Coast book. And it's laid out similar to the Monster Manual, but what this book is it's broken into there's a master and minions for each of the different, for like groups of levels. So like 1 to 4, there's a master in here and a minion here who are sort of like an ultra NPC, ultra bad guy. And it jumps. It goes, well, let's see, it says it's for 1 to 3, 4 to 7, 8 to 10, etc., all the way up to level 20. So that's about what, 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, it's about 7 different categories here for each one. And I don't want to give anything away, but I've already read the book, and man, they really put some thought into this. It's not like you're just giving a bad guy and minions. There's a story here. There's notes on how to incorporate it into your campaign. There's lore. There's tactics for playing the bad guys. There's also how to scale them, which is real important. You might find one you like that say, for a level 3 character, 1 to 3 character, but your players are level 7 to 10. It's in here on how to increase or decrease the difficulty. I think you can decrease. Yeah, there is decrease and increasing. There's advice on how to do that. But again, nice little book, Masters and Minions, right there. All right, what else do I have? Last but not least, where did it go? Oh no, 2 things left. I am always on the lookout for new RPGs. I don't have enough time to really play new RPGs, but I still like to read the rule books sometimes and just kind of see how new games are currently being developed. Years ago, I played a game called Fiasco. Some of you probably played it. Fiasco came in a hardback book, or at least the copy I picked up did. And Fiasco is a storytelling RPG. You do have like a game master, and the players, but the game master and the players work together to sort of help the story proceed. And there's twists and turns a lot more than in, I would say, a standard RPG, because the players are involved in helping the story grow and resolve. So anyway, I've been hearing things about a new RPG, and I went by the booth and picked the book up and started reading it. I was about 10 pages in, and I decided I gotta have it. The game is called Kids on Bikes. This is it. This is all you need. As a matter of fact, there's a paperback version which is thinner, doesn't cost as much. But I'll tell you what it doesn't have that this hardback version does. If you've watched Stranger Things on Netflix, if you've watched E.T. or The Goonies or any 80s movie that had a group of kids that were getting in trouble and solving mysteries, Scooby-Doo is a prime example. This is the book for you. This is a game that you might be interested in. Kids on Bikes is basically a game where each player crafts typically a kid. You can be a youngster, a teen, an older kid. You can be an adult, but the gem of the book is you're playing a kid from the 80s. Now, granted, that's not correct. That's not all true. The book does say you can jump around decades, but it's really sort of hinting that the 80s were, is where it's at. And that's the decade I grew up in, learning to play games and watching Goonies and E.T. and those movies. So basically, the players will create a character, and there's a very simple character sheet, and there's just a couple decisions you have to make. But what the real power of the game is it's this relationship between the players, which the GM facilitates by asking questions. And then there are these adventures that you go on where there are dice rolls and things like that, but the players are heavily involved in sort of tuning the story and directing where the action goes. It's kind of hard to explain unless you've played a game like this, like Fiasco, but I was just blown away. Now the hardback version, I said you can buy a softback version that comes, it's about half of this. That half is just the rules. The latter half of this book is probably a dozen or more adventures that have been written for you to get started immediately. And I read this on the flight home from Gen Con, just to give you an idea. Looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There's 20 adventures called Strange Events in Small Towns. You can see them right here. Some of the names are, Strange Things Afoot at the Circle Q, What Lurks Beneath Southwood Drive, Ghosts and Steel, Butter Tarts and Broken Bones. These are very short little adventures, and I read them all, and they're just hilarious and serious. And I mean, it's meant to be a serious game, and I'm hoping that I could find a few players that might be willing one evening to sit down here at a local gaming store and take this for a ride. I'm perfectly willing to GM it, but again, it's called Kids on Bikes, and I'll put a link below if you're interested. All right, the last thing I have to share with you, and normally I don't self-promote. I am a writer. I write for a living, and I write technology books, and I write short stuff for companies and instruction manuals. I've written a lot of different things. But, I've been gaming since I was in middle school, and I think even back then, one of my dreams was to I used to go to the store and buy these modules, the D&D modules, which was a pre-written adventure, and they were always so cool, and they just seemed like perfect, better than anything I could ever come up with. But I was a young kid. But I always had this dream that one day I could do that. I could write an adventure that other people would play. So a couple years back, I had the opportunity to write some mini adventures for Goodman Games. Now, Goodman Games they have what they call Dungeon Crawl Classics. That's their big RPG. And they have a new one called Mutant Crawl Classic, which is really a take on Gamma World. If you were a player of Gamma World back in the day, it's very similar to that. But anyway, Goodman Games put out the call and asked for me and some other writers to submit some proposals for some very short mini adventures. And basically, they released this book called Fifth Edition Fantasy, FEF. And I submitted a bunch, and there are 12 mini adventures in this one. This is number 7, okay? The other ones are full adventures. This is the only one that has mini adventures. But in this one, there are 12 mini adventures, and they picked 5 of mine to include. So I felt, I loved that. I thought that was a nice nod that they liked what I had to read, had to write. So each adventure is just 2 pages, has a map, usually a monster, things like that. So this was enough for me to smile big for years and years, and I could have stopped here. But then Goodman contacted me and said, hey, we like what you did. Would you be willing to submit a proposal for a longer adventure? So I did, and this was a couple years ago. It usually takes about 6 months to a year if you write something to get to the shelves. But this was my first full-length D&D adventure. It was called The Fallen Temple, right here. right there. And very proud of this. It's a level 10 adventure, always proud of this one. At Gen Con just last week, I was walking the Goodman booth and I was surprised to see it. My latest one, number 13, there are other writers, so that's why the numbers are jumping. I think they're up to number 16 now. I may be wrong. This is number 13. It's called Mystery Under the Monastery. And as you can, there's a theme here, as you can tell. Each book has a picture of a major character inside the story. So this is one I came up with, and here is another one that I came up with. And so it was kind of cool. This was on sale at the. This has just come out, and it was on sale at the Gen Con booth. And I don't know if they sold out. I'm sure they did. I'm sure everybody was just standing in line wanting a copy. But there you go. Now the funny part was, when I got home from Gen Con, I was a little behind in my work, but not so far behind that I couldn't submit the draft for my next one. Yes, I have a third, well, I guess third. This one doesn't really count. This is a bunch of mini adventures, but my third full adventure, number one, number two, and my third one, which is tentatively titled The Auction House Caper. It is a urban adventure. Now, I know what you're thinking, or maybe not thinking. I pitched this idea long before they had ever made the announcement about the new urban adventure that Wizards is releasing in September. But for those of you who like urban adventures, or underneath cities or above cities, things like that, this is an urban adventure called, right now, it's called The Auction House Caper. That should give you a little bit of the idea of what it's about. I don't know when it's coming out. I just submitted the final draft submission yesterday, as a matter of fact, and they'll get back to me with some revision requests and, you know, areas to clean up and things like that. But hopefully in the next, I don't know, 6 months to 8 months, hopefully it will be released. But trust me, I'll let you know when it does. So apologies for the little bit of self-promotion there. But if you're looking for GMs, DMs, if you're looking for some new adventures, I can highly recommend this one and that one and even this one. So anyway. All right, listen, thanks for being patient with me. There was a lot more stuff that I picked up at Gen Con, a lot more stuff I saw, things I didn't like, things I did like, but I think this will help some of you maybe get some new resources. If I had to pick of all the things that I'm most excited about trying out, it would probably definitely be the dungeon tiles, the new Tome of Beasts, some creatures from that, and of course rolling with my Elder Dice. So anyway, that's all I have for you in this episode. Trust me, the next episode you're gonna want to pay attention to. I'm really excited to share this with you. I just can't. It's not done yet. I'm hoping to get it done before the weekend's over, and hopefully you'll like it. It's a fantasy project. It's a fantasy project. So hopefully some of you will find it useful and duplicate it many, many times. Anyway, that's enough. Thanks for joining me in this episode. I'm DM Jim, and I will see you in the next one.